COVID has presented us with a youth ministry challenge that no one took a class on in seminary. But I've been encouraged to see many youth pastors innovate and come up with creative methods, which shows the flexibility of youth pastors and missionaries. Challenges still exist, almost in an instant. Youth pastors across the country have transitioned from cultivating relationships to being content creators. Let's look at this a different way. Through necessity, the byproduct of this challenge reinforces a youth ministry challenge that has been developing over the last decade. Our students have become passive participants, giving up risk, giving up work, giving up the adventure, giving up that challenge of being an active actor in a divine God story. Even now, as our country is forced to socially distance ourselves from interpersonal relationships, how are we to maintain those relationships? I look to Matthew chapter 4, Mark chapter 1, Luke chapter 5 to see how Jesus did it. At the start of his ministry, Jesus had developed quite a following, and as he's teaching, he walks up to the Sea of Galilee. Now, on the shores, there's a bunch of guys who've just finished a rather hard shift fishing that day, when Jesus has an audio need. See, all the people that he's teaching can't hear him. So he goes to two fishermen, Simon and Andrew, and asks them if they wouldn't mind taking him out on the sea a ways so that everybody could hear it. Then Jesus looks over at Simon and he says, hey, I know your day's been terrible, but why don't you try throwing your nets out again and let's see what happens. They caught so many fish that 2 boats almost sank with the weight. Let's lay it out. 1, Jesus brings a huge market of buyers to a group of fishermen. 2, he advertises those fishermen by using their boat as a stage. And 3, he provides those fishermen with an abundance of product to sell to a hungry market. As a broad cross-section of our community has been forced to think about sickness and death, the possible loss of a job, there is the potential for a market hungry for the gospel. At the peak of potential financial profitability, Jesus looks at these guys and is like, there is a sea of scared people out there. Let's go catch them. Let's give them hope. These passages say immediately they bought into the mission of Jesus. They don't sell their fish. They don't sell their boats. They don't come up with a transition plan for their businesses. They don't even clean up the mess from that day. They physically act on Jesus' challenge immediately. In the next passages, these guys go on an adventure with Jesus, healing people, preaching, traveling with Jesus. They needed to simply follow Jesus. And then these 12 guys, they become active actors in the story of salvation. Participation is core to discipleship, requiring more than watching a message on a social media platform and commenting occasionally with the promise of a prize. I fear students are missing our message because the requirement is passive participation. As youth pastors, as youth missionaries, how are we leveraging our current abilities and resources to move students from passive participation to active actors? As a youth ministry, we focus on a few core concepts. 1, a shared message. 2, a shared experience. And 3, a shared sense of calling to go deeper, such as a calling to excellence, to homework completion, a passion to share the gospel, crazy creativity, etc. The COVID challenge has put a strain on group experience. Seeking to solve that challenge, we introduced the Flying T-Kit, which is a combination of physical supplies, which our missionaries drop off on the front porch of our students, complemented by a video conference session in which we all create something, bubble tea, a cinnamon roll, whatever. It's more than a conversation. Let me break down why I think it's working. 1, personal connection. We see our students face to face when we drop off the supplies for the activity. Most stay-at-home orders across the country allow clergy movement while performing religious duties. Stay safe. Stay 6 feet away from the door. Don't hand them the supplies. Place it on their front porch. But these are things that are inside of our ability. 2, shared experience. Everyone does an activity together. It's fun. It doesn't have to be a total success. A failed cinnamon roll is still a pretty good Facebook picture. 3, it requires that the students get out of their chair, their bed, their position of passivity. 4, it produces an object which reminds the student of the experience, almost like a souvenir. 5, the video conference integrates a shared gospel or discipleship message, which is tied to an experience, which is tied to a physical reminder of that message. As I talk to youth pastors, the challenge is always, how do I get my message to sink into the hearts of students? Our solution is this: a shared message, a shared experience, and a deep calling to challenge students to become active actors in a movement of God's stories.